thank you for taking the time to join me today for this webinar, Flexibility Without Stretching. Stretching is the myth that many people believe in. And let's first take a look at flexibility. What is it and why do we want it? Most people I've worked with over the years seem to want to become more flexible. Nobody seems to complain that they're too flexible. Even people who experience what they call hypermobility still want to become flexible, because hypermobility is actually associated with tension of the muscles trying to stabilize the joints that are too lax or too flexible. So the joints are too flexible, but muscles are actually preventing the joints from going all over the place, which actually limits the range of motion. So what happens with most people's experience in their physical bodies is that the flexibility is somewhat insufficient when they try to do some moves, whether it's in sports or in gymnastics or martial arts or dance, and these moves hurt. So they figure, well, I need to get more flexible because what I'm trying to do hurts. So what happens is they develop a dream of being more flexible, dream of getting somewhere other than where they act. What does it mean? Well, obviously, we can look at the dream as also something that's located outside of our comfort zone. And if something is your dream or your aspiration, most likely you're not living it right now. That's why you're still dreaming about it. Well, often we decide it's time to jump, to take a leap and hop over the edge of the comfort zone, so to speak, hoping to get to that place that we're dreaming about. The grass is always greener on the other side. Who knows, maybe that place is not really that much better for us, but we assume that it's better. And based on that assumption, we take a running start and we leap and throw ourselves over the edge of the comfort zone, metaphorically speaking. In regard to the physical body, it looks like this. The person says, oh, I cannot lift the leg this far. I need to stretch. And so they start stretching, and often they do the most debilitating type of movement. They actually do dynamic stretches. What's dynamic stretch? It's a stretch where you actually swing your leg. Like you figure, okay, well, this is the reach that I want to develop. So if I can't reach this height with my foot, I'm gonna just swing my leg. And the more I swing, the better I'll get. Which actually doesn't work. As a matter of fact, 99.9% of cases of dynamic stretches that I've observed and researched led to poorer flexibility instead of better flexibility. I'm not kidding you. Let me explain. When you do dynamic stretch, you cannot control very well how far the leg is going to go. So you throw the leg up in the air, hoping, okay, I'm going to get past that limitation that I feel like my range of motion has a certain limit, which is also what we refer to as the edge of the comfort zone. And if I just push myself over this limit, if I just stretch my muscles further, I'm going to become more flexible. What happens to the muscles? First of all, they're not stupid to hold this tension. They actually hold this tension because they need this tension to balance you so you don't fall over. As in this particular example, hamstrings usually are the culprit. If you don't have any tension in your hamstrings, they're really loose or they're like a sponge. The spongy muscles don't have muscle tone, and actually it will not allow you to stand very well. You literally will be falling over because the longer head of the hamstring pulls on the sits bone. It literally is responsible for keeping your sits bone from sticking out or perking up your tail, so to speak. I've met plenty of people, and perhaps you have met some people, who stand or walk around as if they have the tail perked up straight up in the air. And that is actually the result of lax hamstrings. But most people do the opposite. Most people tuck the tailbone down. As a matter of fact, I've done several types of martial arts, numerous styles of Qigong, Tai Chi, and other disciplines like that. And virtually every teacher I have met, at least in America, tell their students, tuck your tailbone down, tuck your tailbone down, as if there is some kind of an award that the students are going to get for tucking the tail between their legs. No, there is no such award. As a matter of fact, you get punished, not by the teacher, but by nature for doing that. Why? Because if you tuck your tailbone down, that is accomplished by tensing up one of two muscles. Either your hamstrings, as I mentioned, the hamstrings pull the sits bones downwards, so that literally creates this posterior tilt of the pelvis. Or you can achieve the same thing by tensing up your abs. Many people do both. They tense up the abs. They want to look good so that their stomachs don't stick out. They also want to develop six-pack abs, and they think that if they suck their stomachs in, somehow the six-pack abs will grow on them, which does not work that way. But the funniest thing is that the hamstrings end up being constantly tense. They're not tense because they're stupid. They're tense because they receive signals from the central nervous system to contract. Basically, the person is sending the signals to the muscle to contract so that the tailbone would be tucked downwards, which actually messes up the alignment of the entire spine. So the spine is no longer supporting the weight of the torso. If the structure of the skeleton, the bones, don't support the weight of the torso, something else has to support the weight, otherwise you'll just crumple or get squashed by gravity like a jellyfish on the beach. The reason why you don't get squashed is because you engage something else. Those are the muscles of the back that keep you from falling over. When the muscles are engaged, obviously, they also tense. They receive the signals from central nervous system to tense up. And mind you, those are not muscle stabilizers. Those are movers, muscles mobilizers that actually are not designed for holding tension. They're designed for contraction and relaxation. That's the function of the mover muscle. Now, if you hold the tension all the time, obviously those muscles are doing something that they're not really supposed to be doing. They also burn energy, which is something that bones don't need to spend to support your weight. So when the bones are not in alignment, the muscles actually burn energy, which obviously depletes your energy resources. They also get tired. And eventually they start complaining that they have to work too much. They send the signals of complaint in the form of pain signal to the central nervous system. And the central nervous system, of course, it gets irritated or agitated. And then the tense muscles also do another number on you. They create energy blockages. That's right. Energy blockages that are considered the root cause of all kinds of ailments in Oriental medicine are actually caused by undue tension. Undue tension in the muscles of the back, undue tension in the muscles of the hamstrings will actually cause quite a bit of health issues. Plus also they create imbalance. So you get energetically depleted, out of balance. You develop health issues resulting from energy blockages. And your range of motion is very limited because your hamstrings are tight. So what do? You stretch. If you don't know what else to do. Everybody's telling you to stretch. Physical therapists tell you to stretch. The exercise experts tell you to stretch. Personal trainers tell you to stretch. Martial arts gurus and yoga teachers tell you to stretch. So what do? You think, well, if everybody's telling me that I should be stretching to become more flexible, I guess I should be stretching. which is the worst thing for flexibility. Well, let me explain. Why is it the worst thing? Because when the muscle is holding tension, like I said, it's not stupid to just hold tension on its own accord. It does it because it receives signals from the central nervous system to contract. Well, so it holds tension, and then you start stretching it. When you start stretching the tense muscle, it provides some resistance, and once you stretch it beyond the edge of the comfort zone, it also sends the alarm signal to the central nervous system, saying, alarm, I may get torn. Somebody is stretching me, or my owner is stretching me, and I'm going to get ripped if nobody addresses this issue immediately. Maybe not immediately, but the central nervous system eventually says, well, I need to do something about it. Okay, I'm going to send more signals of contraction to this muscle. When the muscle receives more of the signals of contraction, it becomes more tense, not less tense. More tense muscles lead to less flexibility, not more flexibility. So as a result of so-called stretch reflex, which is exactly what I just explained from point of view of physiology, you become less flexible. It doesn't happen immediately. When the central nervous system sends the signals of contraction to the muscles, many of those signals don't really make their way to the muscle tissues. They take their sweet time traveling down certain neural pathways, sometimes going on a loop, sometimes getting lost in translation. Eventually, some of them trickle down to the muscles. It may happen minutes or even hours late. So immediately, you may feel a little bit more flexible because you stretch the tissue, but the tissue will start contracting when it starts receiving those signals to contract. And you probably experienced something like this. You stretched one day, and the following morning, you try to get out of bed, and oh my God, my legs are all hurting, or my arms, or my back, or whatever you were stretching. You basically incapacitated yourself. I've experienced it more times than I care to admit. And obviously, those were the learning opportunities for me. Those, I hope, also would become learning opportunities for you and for every human being who comes across my teachings. So what do my teachings suggest instead of stretching? If stretching leads to stretch reflex, what's the alternative? People don't often want the alternative because they get addicted to stretching. Yogis and gymnasts and dancers and martial artists often are addicted to stretching. By addiction, I actually mean something very similar to opioid addiction. You know, we have an opioid epidemic happening in America and many other countries as well, but America is probably the most egregious example of that. Now, what's opioid? Basically, it's like morphine. Well, morphine is not only the product of opium puppies. There is also such thing as the endogenous morphine, called endorphin, endogenously produced inside our bodies. Our bodies are capable of producing substance that is very similar to morphine. It does the same thing also. It basically quells the distress. If you're in pain, it serves as a painkiller. And that's exactly why the body produces it, because it's in pain. Like when you stretch, obviously by definition, stretching is pulling the muscle beyond the edge of the comfort zone and push it into the zone of distress or pain. When the body is in discomfort or pain, it starts producing endorphins. When it produces endorphins, it actually doesn't feel so much pain. Basically, it's an internally produced painkiller. But it is addictive, just like a regular morphine or other opioids. We end up producing our own shot of morphine. And if we get used to doing that, basically we become addicts. We become addicted to self-inflicted pain. Well, not the pain itself, but what the body does when it feels it. It produces endorphins. And I have known hundreds, if not thousands, of people who got addicted to endorphins. They don't understand it. They don't think that they are addicts, but they actually have to stretch every day because otherwise they feel like there's something missing in their life. Well, something is missing, morphine heat. They basically are addicted to endorphins and they don't even know it. And they also experience withdrawal symptoms. If they don't stretch for a day or two, they actually start feeling crappy. Have you ever experienced something like this? If you have, you may be addicted to your own endorphins. Now, some people also say, but how is it possible to become more flexible if you don't stretch? So it is possible, and this is exactly what I'm going to share with you right now. First of all, if we understand that the reason why we're not flexible to the degree that we want to be flexible is because the muscles are holding tension. And in order to hold tension, they need to receive signals of contraction. Then we actually need to address the situation. We need to figure out how to stop sending the signals of contraction to the muscles. How do we do that? Well, like I always say, if you want to get the same results everyone is getting, keep doing the same thing everyone's doing. If you want to get much better results, you got to do something radically different. There are several ways. There are 4 very effective methods that I will be teaching in my upcoming program. It's called Harmonious Strength Training, but in the context of Harmonious Strength Training program, I'm also going to be introducing all 4 of these methods of releasing tension so that you experience greater strength and greater flexibility. That's right. Strength also increases when you become more relaxed. Many people confuse tension for strength for some reason. But when you are tense, you are not strong. The function of the muscle consists of ability to contract and relax. If it's contracted already, it can contract much further. Nor can it relax. If it could, it would have done it a long time ago. So if you hold tension in the muscle, actually it's a dysfunctional muscle or it's a weak muscle. Another way to look at it is that muscles that are holding tension are weaker than their muscles antagonists. So for example, if you've been working out and developing 6-pack abs, they become stronger than muscle antagonists, which are the muscles of the back. And I guarantee that virtually everybody who practices any type of strength training, goes to the gym, works out in any other way, focuses on those muscles that they see in the mirror a lot more than those that don't see and often don't even know they exist. So for example, if you train your abs, but you don't give anywhere as much training to the muscles of the back, the muscles of the back are going to be weaker. And when there is weakness, they will actually be suffering from excessive tension because they try to keep you from falling over forward. It's like if you have greater strength in the muscles of the front, and the muscles of the back are too weak to resist the tension in the front, you will just be bent over like this all the time. I've seen people like that too. But if you still stand straight or more or less straight, it means that there is some tension in the back compensating for the strength of the muscle antagonists in the front. The same thing is happening, for example, with legs. 99.9% of people have stronger quadriceps, the muscles of the thighs, than the hamstrings. So what happens? The quads are stronger than the hams. That means the weaker muscles also going to be holding greater tension. Not just a healthy muscle tone, but excessive tension. Like I said, if you have imbalance between the front and the back, then the muscles that are on one side of the body will pull you over, and the weaker muscles will basically either give up and you will fall over, or they will hold with all the might that they have, struggling against just the healthy tone of the muscles antagonists. But they're struggling because they're weak. If they were as strong as the antagonists, they wouldn't be struggling. So the imbalance leads to tension, or we can say that tense muscles are weak muscles. In the context of our strength training program, I will actually introduce the method, one of the 4 methods I just mentioned, that actually is going to strengthen those muscles and make them more flexible at the same time. Today, since we have a relatively limited amount of time in our webinar, I want to introduce an even simpler and shorter but very effective method to release the tension in the hamstrings or whatever other muscles you may be working on. It may be muscles of the groin, it may be muscles of the shoulders, it may be muscles of the back, or wherever you want to experience greater flexibility. Essentially, you need to learn how to release undue tension. How do we do that? Well, if we understand that we cause ourselves grief, if the spindle, the nerve ending in the muscle, sends the alarm signal to the central nervous system when the muscle is being pulled beyond the edge of the comfort zone, what we need to do is actually make it so that there would be no alarm signals and no reason for the central nervous system to send the signals to contract to this muscle. How do we achieve that? We achieve that by shortening this muscle. We literally do the opposite thing from what everyone is doing. If everyone is doing stretching, we are shortening the muscle instead of stretching it. Let me demonstrate. So we're looking at the hamstrings, for example. I'm going to simply lift my leg behind me and hold it with one of my hands. I'm not trying to do like the Nataraja pose in yoga. No posing is necessary. I'm just holding my leg bent at the knee and extended at the hip. Why? Because it shortens the hamstring the best. Hamstrings are responsible for flexion of the leg at the knee and for extension of the hip joint. So what I'm doing is I'm basically taking over the job of that muscle with the arm. So this muscle will start sending communication to the central nervous system. Mission success. Somebody came along and helped me achieve what I've been trying to achieve. I've been trying to bring the two ends of the muscle closer together, and now it's done. So I don't need any more signals of contraction. So the central nervous system will get it and will stop sending signals of contraction to this muscle. It takes usually a minute or two, sometimes 3. Now the central nervous system, when it stops sending signals of contraction to this muscle in question, just becomes less agitated in general and stops sending signals of contraction to a lot of other muscles in the body, which includes the diaphragm, your breathing muscle. So what happens? You experience a sigh of relief or yawn, or just notice how your breathing becomes deeper and smoother. That's exactly what I just experienced. When you put the foot down, notice the difference between the sensations in one leg, the one you just held, versus the other leg. Do you notice how the leg that you were just holding, flexed at the knee, feels warmer? There is flow of energy through it, and in general, it feels more alive. It's a very important distinction. If you don't compare the sensations in one leg versus the other leg, you wouldn't believe that this is actually possible. But it's possible, and you can experience it on your own skin, so to speak, right now. So I invite you to do it. If you haven't held your leg in this position, please grab a hold of the leg, just like this, and lift it up behind you, and just hold it with one hand or with two hands at the same time. Make sure you don't overstretch your quads, the muscles of the thighs, because obviously you don't want to cause yourself stretch reflex. You don't want to agitate your central nervous system. All you need to do is to simply quell the sense of discontent or agitation that the central nervous system may experience, so that it stops sending signals of contraction to the muscles that we're shortening. The hamstrings usually take about a minute or 2, sometimes 3, depending on level of tension that you've been holding in those muscles. I already started experiencing release. And so I'm going to bring my leg down and feel the difference. Now, you're not going to feel as much difference if you did one leg and then the other leg. Why? Because now both legs are going to feel alive. But after the first one, it's going to be radically different if you did it right. Now, how do we know that it actually released the tension? I actually would suggest trying it first, checking before, just to find out how flexible you are. Checking how far you can reach. Maybe you can grab your toes, maybe you can't. And then release the tension in your hamstrings and do the same experiment again and see how far you manage to get now. I guarantee that you will notice a significant improvement in your flexibility because it became more relaxed. When the muscles are relaxed, what do? They naturally lengthen, becoming longer. That's exactly what leads to greater flexibility and range of motion. When the muscles start lengthening, you can enjoy this process of lengthening, experimenting, okay, how far can they lengthen? And this is a very important aspect of our training. I will go a lot deeper into it during our 6-week program that is starting tomorrow. Tomorrow, as a matter of fact, is Chinese and Tibetan New Year. So we're going to start the new year on the right foot, so to speak. We will start it with a 6-week-long program dedicated to harmonious strength training. In the context of the program, I will also be introducing the practices dedicated to increasing flexibility without any stretching. We've just done one type of exercises that enhance flexibility without stretching. First, by shortening the muscle and allowing that muscle to lengthen afterwards. Once it lengthens, you may feel like, I'd like to lengthen it further. You will probably be tempted to stretch. So let me just encourage you not to give up to this temptation, because it will cause the stretch reflex and all the results are going to be for nothing. So please don't stretch when you start exploring your lengthening. What do you do instead? That's a very important detail. When you start lengthening the muscle, you will get to the edge of the comfort zone. So instead of stretching or pushing yourself beyond the edge of that comfort zone, I invite you to change the direction of your movement. Not to go back. Turn at 90-degree angle. When you reach the edge of the comfort zone, instead of pushing yourself over the edge or going back to the center of the comfort zone, which is what all people do, either fight or flight. That's one of the reasons why people experience suffering in their lives. Most of this is self-imposed suffering, by the way. That's part of the different program I teach. But once you get to the edge of the comfort zone, see if you can turn the direction of your movement at 90 degrees. So you start moving along the edge. When you start moving parallel the edge of the comfort zone, something really remarkable is going to happen. You will start exploring what it's like to be on the edge. Instead of sense of duty, like I have to stretch, or sense of anger, or sense of fear, or whatever other emotions you may experience when you're stretching, now you are guided by curiosity to explore what it's like to be on the edge. What if I go this way? What if I go that way? So when you, for example, explore flexibility of your hamstrings, you just simply explore what is it like to be at this level of my flexibility right now. And something really remarkable happens. The more time you spend exploring your flexibility, the more you get used to being on the edge of your comfort zone. And by doing so, expand your comfort zone. You're not trying to break through the walls on the edge of the comfort zone. You are eroding those walls, so to speak. You are making those walls move, so you expand your comfort zone organically. It may be a slower process than you would wish to experience, but it's much more stable, reliable, and repeatable. And you don't backslide afterwards. If you don't stretch inadvertently when you explore the edge of the comfort zone, you will not cause yourself a stretch reflex, which means your muscles will not tense up. The following morning, you won't wake up feeling stiff and sore. You will wake up more flexible. I hope that's what you were looking for. Now, this is just one of the 4 principles of increasing flexibility, the most simple one. There are others I will weave into the tapestry of our program dedicated to harmonious strength training, and that's exactly the program I invite you to join. We'll be starting tomorrow, so there is no time to waste. Please click the button or below this video, wherever you find a button that says you're welcome to check out this program. Join this program now, because this program is going to take you not only to a greater level of physical flexibility, but also to a much greater level of inner strength. By inner strength, I mean it's not the strength that you gain by bulking up and building big muscles. The inner strength comes from using your internal resources, potential, and you manifest it. In case of physical strength, you manifest it as becoming a lot stronger. I'm not going to tell you right now how we're going to do it, just because I already did that in a previous webinar. If you haven't watched that yet, I will send you a link to it. I'm happy to share as much as I can in the context of this short video presentations as we go through the entire program dedicated to harmonious strength training. I look forward to having you in the program, to training you for 6 weeks from now. And at the end of the program, you will also be able to continue. It's not like it's going to be just 6-week boot camp and I kick you out and say hasta la vista. No, there's going to be opportunities for continuing training with me, and I will be happy to walk you by the hand along the path of developing greater strength, flexibility, energy awareness, and peace of mind. Please take a moment to click the button to register for the upcoming strength training program. If you have any questions, you can also schedule a one-on-one session with me. I will actually give you explanation of what we do in our programs, answer any questions. Do that now, because I have a little bit of time right now to actually offer several strategy sessions. If you take me up on this offer, all you need to do is use the button. I think it's the yellow button to the side of this video, or a link below this video will take you to this scheduling calendar. Then I will take you by the hand and walk you through the process of becoming not only stronger, but also flexible, more energetically aware, and help you embody mindfulness. That's why I called the type of coaching I pioneered embodiment, and that's exactly what I invite you to experience. I look forward to working with you. See you tomorrow in our first session of the strength training program. Until then, namaste.